pension 10, 15 years ago won't buy much of anything here today.
And why the millennial generation is starting to give up because they can't afford to get a good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. We are live. It is Wednesday evening, the 6th day of the month of March, and today I'm excited to have with us a new guest to RTD Live Talk. And so, as I promised at the beginning of this year, the goal is to basically bring you guys more new individuals that can give you a little bit of education from a variety of sectors. And tonight we're going to be talking about a particular project that I've been following for quite a while now, and so I'm looking to find out some more in-depth information about what's going on with it, as well as get our guest thought on privacy and everything moving forward as far as the whole Internet of Money idea. So with that being the case, welcome to RTD Live Talk. My name is Mike, the host of RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show. And so as always, I'll give it a second, let more people come into the chat. As well as if we have any new viewers, feel free to let me know where you're calling from over here in the chat. Or more importantly, as we get throughout our conversation this evening, feel free to call in and ask questions in reference to cryptos or just the monetary system, whatever you guys feel comfortable for our guest this evening at the number above my head, 1-833-LIVE-RTD. So without further delay, I want to welcome in our guest this evening, Mr. Joshua from Australia. He's all the way down under right now in Sydney, Australia, where it's Thursday afternoon. So it was somewhat of an interesting experience trying to connect with someone on the other side of the planet. So Joshua, I appreciate you joining us tonight on RTD Live Talk.
Thanks very much for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, the wonders of the internet, eh? We can be here with your viewers and bring on a guest from the other side of the world. Pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, looking forward to having a chat and getting to know you.
Definitely. So for those that may not know, Joshua is the global spokesperson for the CloakCoin project. And so CloakCoin has been geared towards privacy. And so it's been around for quite a while. And so it's something that came across my radar maybe 2 years ago now. And so I've watched it go through its ups and downs amongst many other cryptocurrencies. But more importantly, just recently, they had a recent event and release in regards to being delisted. So I want to get into that as well as find out your thoughts on where the future of the project is going. And more importantly, just one of the benefits I've always found in cryptocurrency is the privacy aspect for those that are built upon the idea of providing anonymity on the internet and with money transactions. So that being the case, Joshua, before we dive any further, give us a little bit of background as far as how you got into cryptocurrency, what got you into CloakCoin in particular. Give us the walk down as to who Joshua is.
Yeah, for sure, mate. So I was recently over your way, just doing a bit of a talk at an event called Anarchapulco. That was down in Mexico. It's the closest I've ever been to Detroit. That's not very close to Detroit, but yeah, I did my best. Basically, I went there to talk on the topic of privacy and CloakCoin. And the reason I bring it up is because I shared a very personal story for the first time on a big stage. And it's probably a good place to start. So back in 2014, really ironic thing happened. My surname's Marriage. I got married and then a month later got divorced. And things didn't work out too well at that point. So I sort of went a bit off the rails, started getting involved in some illegal substances and using the dark web. And through doing that was, mid to late 2014, I came across the likes of Bitcoin. And at that point, I believed that it was completely private. That was until I properly understood the technology, and then I came across other projects like Monero. And the reason these were important is because to purchase something on the dark web, which I was doing anonymously, I needed to first get my hands on some cryptocurrency. So having a background in engineering, electrical engineering, but then into software later, I found that it was not too hard to get a grasp on things, but privacy itself, it was a very difficult topic to get my head around at that point. So basically went down the rabbit hole of learning about cryptocurrency purely as a tool to use on the dark web. I didn't see any investment opportunity or anything like that, even at that point, which probably says a lot about my background being more technical than financial. And then, yeah, being in Australia, maybe the scene wasn't as big. Then what happened was I started growing a beard after the divorce that I mentioned just before. And things sort of got pretty crazy. I started sharing a lot of things on social media. It took off, became a little bit of an online personality known as Beard Spo, which was meant to be beard inspiration. And that sort of led me into learning about privacy because I started to get stalked online. My image was plastered all over a number of different fetish websites, which was quite a shock at the time. And I came to the point where I wanted to sell this business where I was selling beard oil and different grooming products. And you would Google my name and a lot of stuff would come up that was, not exactly good for business. So that's where I really got into the privacy side of things. So yeah, end of 2014, those next 18 months were when I really cut my teeth in the industry and learnt about what it really takes to fix up your privacy when you've been breached. So all learnt on the tools, as they say. And basically finding CloakCoin was around the time that I was using some Monero. I started to understand that there was an opportunity to invest in these technologies. And so I really started looking for privacy first technologies because Bitcoin, there's a whole chapter in the white paper dedicated to privacy. And a lot of people will criticize its privacy, but back when it was created, it was probably the best that Satoshi Nakamoto could do at that point, and it was practical for the project at that point. So ever since, I've been focused on privacy, and a lot of other people in the space are as well. You've got a guy called Dominic Frisby from Cypherpunk Holdings, and they're actually an investment firm that only invest in privacy enhancing technology. And I follow a similar thesis with my business, Privacy Express, which is based here in Sydney, Australia. So that's the background, and the involvement with Cloak just grew from being a community member and really wanting to get more involved as the years progressed. So it sounds like you were guided in this direction based upon some early life lessons, and so it looks like things worked out for the good overall because you pretty much ventured down an avenue in the form of privacy, which is one thing that nowadays a lot of people don't really take into consideration, that we're losing each monetary crisis as they come along because of new monetary policies and things of that nature. So a lot of people might say that, hey, why do I need privacy? I don't have anything to hide. What would you say about that? Yeah, there's a really good quote from Edward Snowden, that he's someone, obviously, most Americans would be aware of what he did with blowing the whistle on some bad activities by the NSA. Now, he has a quote where he says, saying that you do not care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care for freedom of speech because you have nothing to say. So it really does sum things up. It's not about what you've got to hide, it's about what you've got to protect. And I've learned that firsthand, and unfortunately a lot of people won't realize that their personal data is very valuable and that their identity is very important until they've been compromised. So look, in reality, you can only share anecdotes and you can work your way through those and figure out what applies to you as an individual. But I like to think about where technology is leading us at the moment. So historically, using platforms like Facebook and different social media, you've sort of been coerced into handing over your personal data because that's how these companies make their money. And that's not your fault. You chose convenience over privacy, which is just a natural, lazy human thing to do. But as we progress, privacy is actually becoming the more convenient option. Now, we're way off that, but that forms part of my thesis in terms of the work that I'm doing. So yeah, I really want people to start treating their data like it's a valuable asset and not a dirty commodity, which is just traded from out underneath them by these big tech companies. So,
and
so long way to go.
You mentioned convenience. And so here in the Western world, we've been very privileged to have the advantages of technological advances with where everything labeled smart. And so because everything is smart now, we feel it's easy just to turn over that that freedom to a device that just saves everything for us and does everything for us with very minimum work in between. Now, do you think that might come back to hurt us down the line if people don't begin taking more interest in retaining their own data as opposed to having their data monetized on their behalf and them not getting profits off of their own information and data? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely think about this from two schools of thought. So you've got the risk and then also the piece of the pie that you're missing out on. So on the risk side, your personal information is in fact very valuable and can be used to do all kinds of things that might cost you money now, might cost you money later, could damage your reputation, affect your safety, even hurt your family. So there's a lot of things where it's about protection, and that's on that risk side. But then when it comes to your piece of the pie, we think about companies like Facebook. They make around 98% of their revenue from selling personal data. Or, sorry, I keep saying data. That's how we pronounce it.
It's all good. So just real quick, for those that are watching, any new viewers watching, so I have Joshua from CloakCoin. He's currently in Sydney, Australia. He's an Australian, so he's from the down under, as we say over here. So
down under.
So that's why the little accent. So whenever you say something, it's still English in a sense. So I got you. So I'm sure we all got you. But feel free to go ahead.
Good to know. Thanks, man. Yeah, back to the side of getting a piece of the pie. It is the fact now with new technologies that enable decentralization, that is power to the people, no middleman, no intermediary. These kinds of technologies are giving us the opportunity to actually take the ownership back of our personal data and use it in ways that we see fit, and also demand that we are rewarded for a portion of the revenues raised by the platforms that make money with our data. So it really is it's an evolution. I like to call it a bit of a privacy renaissance, because we're sort of working from the inside out within this huge institution in similar ways to things you read about in books like the Da Vinci Code and all this sort of stuff. So I do see parallels with this sort of like crypto anarchy movement, but also we want to be peaceful, and we can be, because digitally we're starting to regain power, and it's a data revolution in a sense. So yeah, it depends what angle motivates you as a person. You might just want the money for your data, or you might want to fight for a better future where we've got autonomy and our dignity, and those aren't taken away from us by surveillance and digital imprisonment. So there's a lot there.
Now to go back even further, and so here on Rethinking the Dollar, a lot of people we're heavy precious metals, and so I personally am interested in a variety of projects. Of one, as I mentioned, CloakCoin being one of them, and so a lot of people out here who may be watching may not necessarily have bought into the narrative of having cryptocurrencies. Nevertheless, Bitcoin being the first, cryptocurrency. And so for those that say that this is who is Satoshi? Why would we believe Satoshi's operate in the best interest of the public or the people? And so And so what do you say to those that are skeptical on cryptocurrency in general?
Yeah. First, I'll start just by drawing a bit of a parallel between precious metal investors and people focused on privacy in terms of cryptocurrency and fungibility. The reason I bring that up is because I'm a big believer in both parties. And something that's really important to a gold investor is the fact that they're sick of quantitative easing and money printing and devaluing of dollars that they hold. So they want sound money. They want gold because there's a finite amount and it's auditable. You know, there's all these things along the trail that protect the value of that asset. In crypto, I won't say all projects, because 99% of projects don't even have a product. You know, there's projects like us where we've had a working product for 4.5 years, but there's many that don't. So be aware of that. What they're doing is emulating that same functionality of having a fungible money, which is interchangeable, auditable, and you know the total amount. Well, to the trained eye, obviously, if you're someone who doesn't have any experience in software, I recommend going to meetups and joining groups and just getting to know people that can check the software for you. Because at the end of the day, everything is open source, and there's nowhere for these projects to hide. They're building this code and they're saying these are the rules that we want it to apply, and here's the opportunity for you to check our work and make sure that we're truthful about this. So there is this ethos of never trust, verify within the Bitcoin community and the wider privacy community. So in terms of gold and silver, precious metal investors having their skepticism about cryptocurrency, completely agree. But the one thing that I will say that supports the use case in future, because of the respect for privacy that I believe precious metal investors have, we're careening towards this cashless society, right? So, which sucks, because with cash, you have this autonomy. You can trade peer-to-peer with someone. You can purchase things and not have to rely on a third party for permission. And similar to investing in gold, you know that you have this amount of gold and you don't have to rely on some bank to tell you that, yeah, the numbers are there and we've transferred the money. You can physically hold that if you choose to. And there's a similar ethos within cryptocurrency to say, you know what, screw the banks, screw the third parties that are ruling my life, and let's take back that opportunity to have disintermediated peer-to-peer transactions where we don't have to trust a third party, and we can do that now because there's that technology. So it's inevitable that the world will become cashless, but if it's going to be that way, let's make sure it's peer-to-peer, because that is the true power that's held in cash transactions, that ability to do it just between me and you, Mike, and not this bank that could be shaving off fees, or fractional reserve lending where they're giving you money but they only have 1/10 of that value. And then the compound of all those sorts of effects that your audience would be well aware of with the kind of education you give. So look, it often comes back to privacy for me. In a big way.
That's real, man. So I want to dive more into privacy. And so, as always, everyone, I have Joshua from the spokesperson for for CloakCoin rather. And so if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask directly in reference to privacy in that case, because he's become a privacy expert, having learned a couple things on his side to where he's teaching and educating people. And so he's a part of the CloakCoin project because of some of the benefits in reference to privacy itself. So so I have a question. And so in reference to we as alternative-minded individuals recognize the importance of privacy. And so that's something that we believe is an inherent right that can't be taken away or shouldn't be compromised in any form or fashion. But yet, the monetary powers that be and then the governments that rely upon those monetary powers don't believe that to be the case, because that removes their control from out of our lives if we do things in secret. And so everything is meant to be done openly, as you hinted at the cashless society. Now, in the days ahead, as cryptocurrencies continues to grow, because it's not going anywhere, and so some people say it's going to go to zero. I don't think that's possible because it's already declared a financial asset. That you see all the big institutions getting involved, so that legitimizes it, the whole concept. But as far as the government's concerned, regulation, taxation. And so where do you see that going? How's things in Australia? How's the crypto community in Australia, government-wise? I'm assuming you have the same issues we have here. Give us a little bit of how government might impact this or be threatened by this idea of privacy.
Yeah, another good anecdote for this one. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Panopticon. Does that ring a bell?
Nope, it doesn't. Let me know.
Okay, so Jeremy Bentham, he's touted as being the creator of utilitarianism. Not the greatest idea. He came up with the Panopticon. It's this architectural design for the perfect prison. It's basically all-seeing eye, the watchtower in the middle, with a circular structure, and there's no nook or cranny to hide in. So both surveillance capitalists, so your big companies like, your big social media giants and your search engines of the world, I won't name any, their software architecture behaves in a similar way, and so do governments. So governments want to monitor everything because they're rent-seeking and they don't spend that money very well, so they need as much as possible. So there's this idea of us all living as inmates. We're all prisoners within some form of institution, whether it's digital or in the real world. I don't want that to sound too draconian because we do have the power to fight back against this sort of stuff. But in terms of governments behaving in this way, I firmly believe, because of my experience in Australia, that governments make uninformed decisions on the daily basis. Prime example is in Australia, there'll be extremely technical problems to solve and they don't even consult us. They just go ahead and make decisions and then they're wrong and we've got to deal with the ramifications.
Now you're saying like bring the issue that they're dealing with to the people's vote to find out if they want. So and even consultation of experts. Like the prime example, at the end of last year, the Australian government passed a bill which was mocked across all the media as the ASS Access Bill, because it's called the Assistance and Access Cooperation Bill or something like that. But essentially it's an anti-encryption bill. So encryption being the way to secure communications or any sort of data transfer between, say, me and you. They've written into law that if, say, a company like WhatsApp, say they have a headquarters here in Sydney, which I believe they have a regional office here, they provide encrypted messaging. But if I were an officer from from law enforcement here in Australia, I could go and see you, Mike. You might be a developer at WhatsApp. I'll go and catch you on your lunch break. And I'll say, look, mate, we need to take a walk. And I will say, after lunch, you have to build a back door into this Messenger app and you can't tell your boss and you have to do it. And if you break either of those mandates, you face jail time. So we're talking like 3 to 5 years jail because they bundle all this up with anti-terror laws and stuff, which, there's obvious need for that kind of stuff. But the fact of the matter is that treating your entire population like prisoners does not empower them to fight against, bad actors that might be, threatening the community at a broader scale. So Australia have acted very poorly in supporting privacy in this sense, and it's to be expected. We're part of the Five Eyes Alliance, which is Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the US, and the UK. But we're the guinea pig, we're the little small nation down the bottom alongside New Zealand. They test these things out and then they roll them out on other countries. So I wouldn't be surprised if similar stuff happens in the US.
what really sucks is we're starting to see an exodus of tech firms that are based in Australia, and they're going, oh crap, we respect our users and their privacy, so we better go relocate. And Australia, you know, we're a lucky country. We've had 30 years of uninterrupted growth off the back of resources and a mining boom, helping China to fuel their industrial revolution, and yet we have no real other offering to the world other than a bit of beef here and there. We need to be harnessing this tech talent and keeping them here, but our government is just completely bonkers.
Yeah, everybody, I know from what I've gathered and what I've seen, a lot of things, everyone's going to Hong Kong, Singapore area, Japan. Those areas seem to be adopting at a much faster rate, which could be a problem for everybody else that needs that revenue, especially even if they tax it or whatever. And so I want to touch on something you hinted at, and one of the I got a couple comments, a couple questions here we're going to get to in a second, but you hinted at the 5 eyes, and so that's one thing I haven't talked about before, of which I'm aware of it, and so elaborate a little bit on that for us and how that right there could be the overseeing big brother of the world when it comes to privacy and just the tech development with all those back doors and everything probably labeled smart, in my opinion. Give us some input on the 5 eyes from your perspective down in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess over in the US, you've got your agencies like the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. In Australia, we've got ASIO and a bunch of other, I think ASIS, and we've got our defence forces and all their sorts of surveillance, you know, Australian Signals Directorate, all these different organisations within government who are basically there to scoop up info and protect the nation. But like, you know, with the NSA, that it just goes beyond the joke to the point where it's actually harming people instead of protecting them and stripping them of their human rights. So in Australia, we tend to just follow what the US and the UK do. You know, we're part of the monarchy. We wish we were a republic, so we try to act like the US. You know, there's all these crazy things that go on down here. But the fact of the matter is, it's just an alliance of sharing information. So any information that's captured in any of those 5 countries can be shared cross-border with any of the others, however the government sees fit. You know, I'm not one of these like complete anarchist people. I'm somewhere in between anarchism and libertarianism, and I prefer just to make up my own mind and not follow a set of rules, you know, swinging left or right. I'll just go my own way. I see government having an important role if it's run properly as an actual democracy, which ours isn't. It's just a bipartisan dick swinging contest, pissing contest. And that's where it scares me, is they're not acting in the best interests of the people. So if all this information is being shared, it's honeypots for bad actors. You know, the way that they handle this information is so poor. And a great example to explain that is our government did a thing called My Health Record, where they just decided, because it didn't work the first time and no one wanted to do it, they made it opt out. So you automatically have all your health records stored on a central database without expressly giving intent or giving permission. And it's already been a shambles. It's already had issues where there's, you know, hacking attempts and the data's been compromised and all these sorts of things. And it's so important that we're protecting this information and not just sharing it around and advertising to hackers that it's here, you know? So I think there's a lot to be learned around privacy and security by governments and also people, just to really respect their information. And the other thing in relation to 5 Eyes is just the scale of this is insane. Like when you start reading up on this this program, just think about how the NSA scooped up every single transmitted piece of information sent on all communication networks across the US. Then imagine how that information has been shared to every other member of the alliance. and then how that information is just disseminated between all of these different entities, and combined with freely accessible information. And then you've got companies on the internet that track your every move. Like, now's the time before the problem gets too big for people to start doing something about it. So,
I agree 100%. And so I want to actually get to a couple questions in the chat here. And as always, I have Joshua, the spokesperson for CloakCoin. So if you guys have questions directly, feel free to call in. I would love to hear your voice. As always, as I have guys join us and young ladies join us, I always promise them that we're going to get some great interaction, because my audience isn't afraid to call in. So don't disappoint us tonight. But so Joshua, I got a question here, a couple of them. Let me see. I reply back to some. Mike asks him if CloakCoin is SHA-256.
Yeah, there is SHA-256 encryption involved in how our data is transmitted. But I'd recommend reading our Enigma white paper for more information on how that's handled, because we've got some special features on our Enigma payment system, where instead of just relying on encryption of a packet of data to send between peers on the network, we actually incentivize the people that make up the network to act as mixing nodes, which essentially breaks up the encrypted information, sends it in a fashion similar to a Tor network or onion routing, and then that information is unpacked as it steps around the network, and then when it gets to its final destination, it's received across multiple addresses to make it untraceable in that sense. So there's strong encryption, but then there's also a lot of obfuscation, which makes recombining the information, if it were to be decrypted, recombining it would be a really, it's technically impossible at this point. And we've had that audited by a NASDAQ-listed cybersecurity firm called Cognosec, and we've also published that report. So definitely check out the website. And I'm a little bit out of practice with my coding knowledge and abilities at this point, so I don't want to butcher trying to give a too detailed information on that answer, but it's a great question.
That's fair enough. Now, so just in reference to CloakCoin, and so I think when I first caught my eye was 2 years ago, and it was rough. It was around $2 or $3, and then of course we all know what happened when the spike happened in 2017 towards the end of the year, and so it got up to $34 or so a coin. And so and I watched it go from $3 to $34, literally like wow, like, you know, of course a lot of other coins went up as well, but yeah, it was in regards to privacy is what always interests me, because all the other coins that we are familiar with tend to be open code, you can track, and all that stuff that comes with just that particular technology. So CloakCoin is one of many. Now, in your opinion, if you're in the privacy sector as far as a coin, are they all created equal to where they all can be viable sources of transmitting back and forth with privacy, quote unquote, or are there some better than other? And would you say CloakCoin is one that is up there, or is, because I know we got Dash, Zcash, Onion, you name it. There's a lot of more. There's more privacy coins coming out here. Where does Dash mix amongst that group there?
Yep. So in terms of the range of privacy coins from Dash, Monero, Zcash, Navcoin, Pivex, CloakCoin. There are a lot of differences. Different projects do different jobs better than others. What really draws me to CloakCoin and separates it from others is a couple of things. I quite like the fact that it's proof of stake and that I get a 6% reward for helping support the network. I like the fact that I can do that without having to invest in a master node. We allow anyone to be a node on the network and get that staking reward. Now, the thing that draws me to it from a privacy perspective compared to other coins is a lot of coins manage the obfuscation in a really, really complex technical mathematical way that is extremely hard to understand and even harder to explain to another person. So I believe in terms of adoption, it's important to go with things that are elegant and simple. And I really like the way that Cloak managed the privacy. So we actually took the Bitcoin code base to create our blockchain. And then we handled the privacy on a second layer, which is the Enigma payment system, which is a wallet technology. And it's unique. There's no other project that has this in the same way that we do. So what it actually allows is to maintain an auditable money supply. So at the moment, we've got about 5.236 million coins in circulation, somewhere around that. That can be checked. You can go on our blockchain, you can see the total supply. As you'll see with some other projects that have had recent issues, that's not exactly the case. I won't name them specifically, but bigger privacy coins that have issues around being able to generate coins in the background without anyone knowing, because it's so hard to determine the actual total supply of coins that are in circulation. And I just like privacy is very complex, right? And it seeps into every part of our life. And I think that the simpler the solution, the better at this point. And I think in future, there's going to be tons of different algorithms and types of encryption to help secure a network. But I don't see the point in rolling them all out immediately at once until, until you've sort of evolved a system to suit a certain need. This is cutting edge technology, and
it's just beginning. That's what's so exciting. It's just beginning. Like, so everything we're talking about now will more likely be different next year as more stuff's rolled out and layers and all that stuff like that. So that's what's so exciting, because who knows what it's going to look like a year from now, nevertheless a couple months from now. So I'm sorry, but go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, no, that's okay. Because one thing that I like to think about a lot, like Cloak has been around for 4.5, going on 5 years. And a lot of people just look at price, they just go, oh, well, the market cap on these projects is low, it must be crap. But the thing is, 90%, maybe 95% of people that have invested in projects, that occurred in the run-up at the end of 2017 into early 2018. And a lot of that was ill-informed. A lot of that was not, well-educated investments. There were a lot of people just speculating, just placing bets without doing any fundamental research. And for us, we had no ICO. We didn't raise any venture capital. There was no pre-mine. We just launched it as proof of work, mined the coins into existence, and then switched over to proof of stake and started rewarding the network participants. And it's really hard, after the Binance announcement to delist us, which we had no knowledge of, we had no feedback over our close to 1 year relationship. Even though we submitted 6-page long monthly reports, updated them on every single detail as it happened. In that entire time, we never got feedback. I don't even know if they read our reports. And we're not going to hang on that. We're just going to continue moving forward.
Right. Well, now, what's your speculation? What do you guys? I'm assuming you guys have an opinion as to why. Because I had a couple thoughts, which I'll share with you. Because you weren't the only coin that was delisted. So I see in the chat here people mentioned that Binance was delisted. But one thing that I didn't buy into the hype of was that CloakCoin had a pretty strong community prior to Binance. So Binance to me wasn't the key indicator at the price drop. It was probably more so the newbies that didn't really belong there, more so vacated. So that's fine. But CloakCoin was doing well before Binance took you guys on. So what are your thoughts? Because there's a lot of other projects out there on Binance that aren't doing too well or whatever they might want to have. But I think a part of me believes it's because of the way you guys have the Enigma, and it's unique in the fact that it's different than every other privacy coin, which could be a problem, because if it is true privacy, then that is a threat to their system. So go ahead, I'll let you talk.
No, that's fine. Look, I agree. I've got a couple of thoughts on this. Firstly, just to be completely transparent with everyone, which we're being 100% transparent through all of this stuff. we still to this day have not received any reasoning why. There's no constructive feedback for us to implement as a team, just the standard 7 points, which are the criteria for listing, which we haven't deviated from those. But discussing it with the team and with our legal support and other people within the industry, my personal opinion is because it doesn't fit into the BNB coin ecosystem. So there's a lot of marketing hype around the BNB coin, and its utility is its speculative rise and fall based on other speculative models. So they've got these, it's not really based on utility as a coin, except for the people within Binance that are paid in BNB and can use it to pay for their things, for their day-to-day lives. But what you'll see with the BNB coin is when these huge ICOs come onto the Binance Launchpad, you'll see a movement in price as people buy up BNB because it's the only coin that you can participate in these ICOs. A lot of these ICOs are bought up by big money before the public can get in anyway, and you just get dumped on. It's just like a pump and dump scam, but at a bigger scale. I'm not saying that they're scamming anyone. I'm just saying that people with big money will definitely win in an ICO. That's just the nature of the game. And you see that. You see the price rise up on hype, and then you see a dump. And with the BNB coin, after all the people that have missed out on purchasing, say a BitTorrent token in an ICO, they go, oh, well, I've got to get rid of these BNB now so I can go back into my Bitcoin holdings or whatever I'm holding on my CloakCoin. Well, not now that we're not on Binance, but you'll see the price go down, and it lines up quite well with the operation of these ICOs on the Binance Launchpad. And Cloak doesn't fit into any of that. Cloak is purely a utility. It's a currency. Its value is the fact that it can keep you private. And for us, that's why we just continue working regardless of the price. It makes it very hard for us to fund this because it's self-funded. And that's just the nature of the game. But there are other ideas even around privacy with Binance. For example, decentralized exchanges are a really important tool to maintain anonymity. Always have trouble with that word. And proper decentralization and privacy. Binance announced the launch of their DEX. It's not actually a decentralized exchange. It's actually all the service nodes are still managed by Binance. They still manage the blockchain, the Binance chain. And if you look at it from a contrarian point of view, it's a way for them to mitigate the risks involved with holding everyone's keys. So now the custodianship is back onto the user, and they no longer have that huge liability of holding hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto when they eventually migrate everyone over to the DEX. And the DEX runs on, runs on BNB. So there's another inbuilt utility within their ecosystem that moves the price of BNB. And I don't think CloakCoin had the ability to move the price of BNB. And the only thing that we could find in our history and our communications was the fact that we were not eligible for a BNB listing, a Cloak BNB pair. And I'd say that that's closely related to some of these ideas I've shared, but still, look, these are just my thoughts. So, And the other thing is too, we've even had things like third-party audits that I've told you about, and a third-party legal opinion to prove that we're not a security. So in terms of other legal risks, I don't see any. I just think, perhaps we don't fit into pumping the BNB coin as much as, say, other projects might. And there's also talk around the trading volume being quite low. it's a bear market. Everyone's holding their coins.
Not too much activity especially when people got in, like, you know, because CloakCoin especially was a $5 plus coin for quite a while. And so me personally excited about the project a while ago. I was waiting for it to do what it's doing now. So I'm more on the excited side myself, but I'm sure everyone will feel the same way. So I got a couple of questions here, and as always, people have Joshua. I would love to get at least one phone call before we hang up tonight. I always promise everybody a phone call, and so I owe it to my guests to get them one. So if anyone have a question, if I'm not able to get to it, don't be afraid to call in. So keep it moving. But I have a question about Bitcoin here from Tony. It says, ask him if it's true that there are 4 million wallets with 100 USD Bitcoin in it. Excuse me, and only 1,500 wallets with 10,000 or less. Or do you?
I'm not 100% sure. That could be verified. I know there are a lot of wallets that have been permanently lost in terms of the private keys are missing, and that they estimate that the true circulating supply of Bitcoin is more around the 17 million mark. But the other thing is that makes it harder. So Bitcoin's privacy has improved a bit because of the way the wallets function. And that would actually make it a bit harder to prove things like that, because if you have, say, one Ledger Nano and you're using your Ledger Live software to manage your Bitcoin, every transaction you're generating a new address. And so all those addresses will be associated with you. But that's not visible on the blockchain. That's only if, like, you know, Coinbase's Neutrino or one of these companies is tracking you, and then they're assigning your IP address to those wallet addresses. So that's a really interesting question, and it would be really fun for a cyber forensic friend of mine to look into. So maybe I could do it.
I want to touch on that IP tracking address situation, but we have a caller, so let's see if we can get you your one call this evening. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Well, I'm again, and I'm calling from the getting a reader.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, this is Omni again.
How you doing, Omni? What's on your mind tonight?
I'm all right. How you doing, Joshua?
Good, thanks, Omni. I actually saw you on last night's show, or heard you on last night's show. So it's good to meet you.
Okay. Oh, it's a pleasure. I have a few questions. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay. First, will Cloak ever try to get integrated or something like Waves or Tron or EOS, where they have more exposure and decentralized exchange?
Okay, that's one question. So go ahead. So will CloakCoin ever integrate with Wave, Tron, or something of that nature for more decentralized and more exposure itself?
So when there's more funding available for these extracurricular things, we are definitely open to those, because we do have, like, unique learnings and knowledge that we can share with other projects. We have actually got an alliance with NEM. They're the most popular cryptocurrency in Japan, like quite high adoption and stuff. A lot of people would say, but why would you collaborate with a project like that? And the fact of the matter is, our industry is so small, we should all be working together. And if we have unique strengths that we can help others with, then that would make sense. So say an enterprise blockchain solution, what an enterprise is full of? Individuals, and what's important to individuals? Privacy. So yeah, we can always find ways to work with other projects, and I'd definitely be open to that, just as we can get more funding and fund further developments and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a really good question.
Now, what would be the voting process, and who would determine that? I mean, what's the community? What's the voting process? I mean, I know the voting process. How does all that work?
Yep. So that's a perfect question too, because we've actually just been finishing up the code for our dev fund, which will go live quite soon. And basically, of the rewards that come from the network to the holders, that's the 6% annual reward. There's going to be a 1% portion that goes into a dev fund. And what that is for is to fund further developments, to pay developers full-time wages. that is all actually incorporating a voting and governance mechanism. So community members would be able to stake an amount of Cloak to place a proposal, and then the community of holders would be able to vote on those proposals. Obviously, it doesn't actually cost them. It's and they get their Cloaks back, but yeah, we are actually implementing that kind of technology at the moment, and I think it'll form a really important part of Cloak moving forward because, in my opinion, the definition of privacy is just the ability to express yourself selectively, and that's very much in line with freedom of choice. So community voting mechanisms, I'm definitely big on that, and I think, yeah, definitely have that capacity in the very near future.
Sounds good. Omni, what's your next question?
Well, it's a thing. I've known about Cloak for about 4 years, maybe.
Yeah, you say you've known about Cloak for 4 years now, maybe?
Yeah, a long while now.
Okay.
They've been expensive for me. They're nice. I like them. But what he just stated is they're focused on enterprise. And it took retailers to just take you where you went.
Yeah.
And I think your focus needs to come back to the retail.
So he's saying your focus needs to come back to the retail because it was more so focused towards, I think, industry. I believe that's what I heard. Got a little bit of a little choppy signal here every now and then, but go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
finish your thought.
We've definitely received.
That was basically it.
Go ahead, Omni.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead, Omni.
No, I was saying that was it.
That was it.
Oh,
okay.
No worries.
So getting back to retail, as opposed to the bigger corporations, enterprise. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks, Omni. Appreciate you for calling, my friend.
Take care. Have a good one. Thanks for the show, Mike.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Appreciate your time, Joshua.
See you, mate.
Yeah, man.
I actually have a good comment relating to that. Over the years, there's been a lot of really strong feedback from community members, and we've experimented with a lot of things. But I feel that we've finally found our groove at the moment, and it's purely protecting the privacy of individuals.
Yeah.
So retail focus is really huge, and I've been working on a project in stealth that I can't announce just yet, but I will get in touch with you once the prototype is live.
Yeah.
But basically, my firm, Privacy Express, we're building a way for you to shop on any online store privately. And one of the initial one of the initial accepted payment methods will be CloakCoin. But yeah, thinking big scale with retail and thinking about ways to help people also protect their personal data, not just the payment details. So yeah, it's really interesting. It'll make privacy the more convenient option. It should be.
Sound like it's in the work.
Really cool.
Sound like a lot of things in the work. So interested in finding out and hearing about that more. So we have another caller. Let's see what's this call is about. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? I'm sorry.
This is Rob at Hope.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Say hello to John. And in addition to the retail push, I suggest that since YouTube is being such a channel, and Twitter and Patreon, that Cloak reaches out to people with, shall we say, controversial content on the internet.
Yeah. So
as far as soliciting donations, why not choose something like Cloak instead of Patreon?
Yeah.
And start making that go viral. I'm sorry, my things are looking really bad right now.
It's a little mumble, but yet his question was, how about Cloak focus on going after sectors that are causing problems disruption-wise, such as Twitter, Patreon, and where they're having problems probably with Visa and the processing mechanisms that go behind their businesses. Would CloakCoin be a good way to disrupt that by offering private type of transactions and things of that nature? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of censorship issues with the support of content creators. So I think that's a fantastic idea, and it's definitely something we've been discussing. And I think I recognize the voice of the caller. I think I might know this person. Is that Lab Rat?
Is this Lab Rat? He said.
Yeah.
He said,
it was all an elaborate hope.
I think he said, yeah, it is Lab Rat.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Fantastic idea, and definitely something that we're working on, and definitely something that I'd love to talk to you about more as well, Mike, because after Acapulco, there's a lot of controversial figures in libertarian movements, and anarcho-capitalist movements, even just rethinking the dollar, you know, that just, you know, springs off in people's minds like, oh, this guy's up to trouble. But the thing is, it's freedom of speech, and it's freedom of thought, and freedom of choice.
Right.
And at the end of the day, platforms like Patreon and YouTube are demonetizing content creators because the opinions expressed by their content creators are perhaps not aligned with the best interests of the shareholders and the companies that run in the background. Right. So the idea of using a privacy cryptocurrency is a great way to incentivize these content creators because it's censorship resistant. Yeah. And there's no link between the people supporting you know, them and their actual accounts. Now, that's obviously, we wouldn't condone anyone doing it if it was involved with like hate speech or anything that's like just completely disgusting. But if it's someone voicing their open opinion and there's people that care about what they have to say, like who are these platforms to rob and strip people of that right? Like, you know, people like Alex Jones, like I don't follow his work. I don't identify with him and his messages, but I still feel bad that he's been like stripped of his ability to earn an income from his work because there are people that identify with him and care. Yeah. And whether they're right or wrong is not up to a company to decide. I think that's got to come down to the consensus of a wider community. Yeah. And there's another thing that our cryptocurrency definitely aligns with. Yeah, so
definitely. Yeah. So caller or Lab Rat, if that's what we're saying here. Any more thoughts for Joshua here?
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Rethinking the Dollar.
Appreciate it. Thanks for calling, my friend.
Yes, and Josh is doing a great job. And we are close, and we never surrender, and we're going to take on. So thank you very much.
All right, my pleasure. Have a good evening.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. So that was interesting. So, yeah, Josh, man, I've definitely learned a lot. You know, CloakCoin, I'm, you know, still interested in finding out the developments ahead because I think, you know, in this current market, as I've heard a lot of people mention that when it's a bear market, that's the best time to lower your head and begin developing and building. So I believe you guys are doing that. And so I'm excited to hear about more things coming out and definitely plan on connecting with you more in the future. So as always, we approaching our hour point, and so I want to be respectful of your time because you still have a whole day ahead of you as we draw to the end of this evening here on this east side of the country. But for everybody, I appreciate you guys joining us. Joshua, any last thoughts you want to direct people where to follow your work and to stay in tune with the project? Let people know where they can follow and stay in tune with what you got going on.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone wants to talk to me directly, I'm on all social media as Satoshua, so Satoshua. Just a combination of Satoshi and Joshua. If there's anyone that wants to learn more about CloakCoin, just head to CloakCoin.com. And yeah, look, there is a lot of work going on, despite how hard a bear market is, and it, you know, fluctuates our funds that are available and all that sort of stuff. It hasn't slowed us down. We're more determined now than ever. And we're just really proud of our community for holding up so strong and supporting us, even after some recent bad news. But I think in the long term, it's actually going to be a blessing in disguise, just based on some things that are starting to come out now about some of these big centralized monopolistic players within the industry.
Yeah.
Doesn't align with the values of this technology. So don't know if that's really the way the people want it to be. So yeah, reach out to me anytime. Always happy to chat, and really appreciate having you on, and we'll share all of your work out with our communities as well, because I think that our people would definitely love what you're doing here, Mike. So really appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. Everybody, so appreciate you guys tuning in tonight with my guests from CloakCoin. Definitely, as always, if you guys enjoyed this, don't be afraid to give it a thumbs up. More importantly, if you want, share it to get the word out there, because a good portion of this particular project has to do with privacy. And so that's something that a lot of people take for granted at this current point. And so we need to be very appreciative of still having an opportunity to share our thoughts behind closed doors if need be, and do what we need to do to live our lives independent of watching and prying eyes. So that being the case, it's been great. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m., same time, same place. Tell a friend, and come ready to have some real talk conversation. Other than that, be good, be safe, stay prayed up. Peace.